Hey y'all, it's Squid. Welcome back to the channel. How is everybody doing this morning? Happy Monday. It's Monday. God forbid it's Monday. So much to do today, but I wanted to get into this topic because I've kind of put it off. It's not that I put it off. I wanted to do it last Friday, and then the little baby girl happened, and we had an incident, and Mama couldn't talk very well for a day or two. I hope everybody is doing great on this Monday. So this lawsuit is about. Oh, and there's the little. Say hi. So this lawsuit is about the FAA. It was filed originally back in 2015. So this is before Trump. Before Trump. Let's put it that way. So if anybody's wanting to know the timeline, this was originally filed in 2015. So this lawsuit is old. It still has not gone to court or been settled. But first thing I wanted to do was, after the incident, everybody started questioning the FAA, mainly air traffic controllers. And there's a shortage. And I wanted to address the fact that I think the incident on January 29th, based on my somewhat educated opinion and hearing the audio, was not air traffic control's fault. In my opinion, the Black Hawk took control. ATC asked not once, not twice, but I think 3 times if they saw the CRJ. In my opinion, I believe the video I saw from Captain Steve. I liked his opinion, and I believed what his interpretation was, that they said they saw it. So when they said they saw it, air traffic control says, okay, you've got it. It's your responsibility now. We've informed you. We've asked you. You've said it. You stated. I think they never saw the CRJ. I think they saw the jet behind it, which was American Airlines 3130. Which was I believe, a Embraer 170. The reason that I have an insight on CRJs is I not only worked for an airline that flew CRJs, I am engaged to a man who worked for Bombardier. So all of my CRJ questions, can you turn the volume down, please, before mommy gets a... Thank you. Before mommy gets a copyright strike because you're listening to music. She's jamming on the iPad, so you can see her kind of dancing right there. Mr. Squid worked for Bombardier for a little while, and actually worked on CRJs every day. So I have an inside knowledge of how CRJs work, how airport works, how air traffic control is supposed to work. I am not in aviation anymore. With the exception of being an agent for an airline and filling out weight and balance paperwork. I have no more experience with a civilian airline than that. However, my go-to person for all things aviation, who currently still works in aviation, I ask him everything. Good morning, Tammy. How are you? Good morning. Both of my Tammys, Tammy with a Y and Tammy with an I. I love my Tammy crew. And King Paco, how are you this morning? Hope everybody is doing well. So before we get into the actual lawsuit, like I said, this goes back to 2015. The amended complaint that I have is the 4th amended complaint that was filed in October of 2020. There is 208 documents in this docket, and each one of them costs cash because it's filed in DC, and because we all know that DC is not a state. So anything filed in DC automatically goes to federal court. Rita, how are you? Greetings from South Africa. Ooh, how are you doing? I don't think I've talked to anybody from South Africa outside of the CrossFit space before, so this is cool. We are getting into an air traffic control lawsuit. But first, we are going to discuss the issues with air traffic control in general. So I have an article from CNN. So everybody knows if I share something from CNN and I agree with CNN's opinion on something, that it's a big deal because CNN and I don't really ever get along. All right, and I will make myself. There we go. Try to make this as big as possible. Are you okay? Too much water, too fast? Yeah. Please don't make those flashcards go all over the. Oh, here we go. Mama's gonna be picking up 102 flashcards. 152 card pickup is in my near future. So, not just Reagan, airports across the U.S. have struggled with air traffic control staffing in recent years. When American Airlines flight collided with a military helicopter near Reagan National Airport Wednesday night, the airport tower wasn't fully staffed, with one controller handling the job of 2 people. But the situation was hardly an anomaly. Airports around the country have struggled with controller staffing levels for years, according to CNN review of government data and interviews with aviation experts. Most recent data from the FAA shows across all airport towers, terminal approach facilities nationwide, approximately only about 70% of staffing targets were filed by fully certified controllers as of September of 2023. Mr. Squid left my my portable speaker on the hood on the trunk of my car, and it rained. Luckily, a JL Audio pill still works after it gets wet. FYI, just in case you need to know. Hey, Karen and hey, Roy, how are you guys? When controllers in training are included, that rose to about 79%. Some traffic control towers at major airports around the country, including Philadelphia, Orlando, Austin, Albuquerque, and Milwaukee, had less than 60% of their staffing targets filled with certified controllers. Reagan Airport had about 63%. And I preface this with, I do not think air traffic control was responsible for this crash. I think it was all the Black Hawk. Because air traffic control not asked not once, but at least twice, maybe 3 times. I can't remember. It's been a couple days since I looked at the audio or listened to the audio. That the Black Hawk they asked, do you see? You're getting closer. Do you see? And they said yes. I don't think they ever saw the CRJ. I don't think they ever did. But being a former figure skater, that's a little personal to me because there were 28 figure skaters, coaches, and family members on that flight. Aviation experts say it's too early to tell whether a lack of sufficient staffing could have played a role in the disaster over the Potomac River that took 67 lives this week. Or Potomac, sorry, I can't read this morning. But the tragedy could raise awareness of the staffing issues that go beyond a single airport. So, air traffic control at airports around the U.S. have struggled with staffing. Most airports around the country weren't at the target staffing levels for fully certified air traffic controllers, according to FAA data as of September 2023. So, the most hard-hit airports, Detroit looked like it was over 90%. Atlanta, Hartsfield-Jackson, but Hartsfield-Jackson is the busiest airport in the world. I also heard that they were using night vision. With night vision, and if you've ever worked at an airport or seen or lived near an airport at night, you know that on approach, airline or planes turn on their front their lights, and those lights are pretty bright. And I don't know if you've ever used night vision, but night vision combined with a very bright light do not get along. Also, there's been rumors that they were supposed to be at 200 feet and they were at 400 feet. My issue, sidebar, my issue with the whole thing is I worked in military aviation. I worked around Seahawks, which is the Navy version of a Black Hawk. I've worked at a military. I've worked on an aircraft carrier and on a military airbase. I have never, ever, 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 ever in my life seen the need for a helicopter to cross a landing lane. I've never seen that in my life. I asked Mr. Squid if he had ever seen that because he went on two more deployments and was in for 7 years longer than I was. And he had never seen that either. So that's my first issue with all the restricted airspace. Why would a Black Hawk need to cross the landing path of civilian aircraft? I've never seen that ever in my life. So if I can get a hold of the NTSB report, I asked Mr. Squid if it would be made public. He said it should, but he said he's dealt with NTSB before. They are not nice people. They have a job to do, but they are not nice people. When he worked for a company, one of the airlines that contracted with his company had a mishap, and he got interrogated by NTSB, and they were not very nice people. So if he does not, or if they don't make it public, I might still have a way to get it. I have to hope and pray that these people will help me. But I will be reading it if it's public because I really want to know. And Ung Hung Hero, thank you for the $2 super chat. Good morning. Yeah, that's what I think too. I have heard the audio. I honestly don't know. I never worked on helos. That was not mine. I was I worked on avionics, but I was E2C Hawkeyes. So I have absolutely no idea of the what a Black Hawk or a Seahawk have or don't have. It's hard enough to remember the systems that I worked on, but I did interact with the tower when I was on the aircraft carrier. I did radio checks with them. So I've spoken to air traffic controllers before. So my aunt wanted to work on an airline. She told them not hired due to TNA. That was 50 years ago, and they only hired thin women. Yeah. My mother also worked for a civilian airliner or an airline as a gate agent. So she is familiar with towers and balance paperwork in civilian aircraft. She also worked with CRJs a lot. The airline we used regional jets a lot. And the French don't play when it comes to their safety. Bombardier is a French company, and French aviation companies do not play when it comes to who they work with and how they maintain their aircraft. Air traffic controllers in the U.S. have been warning about the impact of low staffing levels for years, submitting anonymous reports to NASA's Aviation Safety Reporting System. At least 10 reports submitted by controllers included concerns about staffing, work schedules, or fatigue in the last year alone, the NASA database shows. We have been short-staffed for too many years, and it's creating too many unsafe situations, one controller in Southern California wrote last year. Recounting how a small aircraft requesting assistance could not be helped due to workload issues. The FAA has created an unsafe environment to work for in the flying public. The controller's mental health is deteriorating. And I don't think this is the people who are on staff. I believe they are doing their best with what they have. I believe this is an FAA issue and their hiring practices, which we will get into. We already have unforced 6-day work weeks, working overtime every week. Another controller in Northern California wrote, this leads to controller fatigue very quickly. We need more staffing. Self-reported safety incidents by aviation personnel recorded in NASA's database detail hundreds of incidents since 2015 in which pilots said they were forced to take evasive action to avoid collision with another aircraft or helicopter when trying to land or depart from the country's busiest airports. And be it the fact that I live in Southeast Georgia, I fly out of Savannah, and going anywhere in the country from Savannah, you have to go, if you fly Delta, you have to fly through Atlanta. Atlanta is the busiest airport in the world. So it makes it a little like personal to me because I fly through the nation's busiest airport when I fly. So it makes it even more nerve-wracking for me, and this is why I drive. FYI. There were more reports of such incidents at Reagan National, which processed over 25 million passengers per year, than any of the top busiest airports in the country. Pilots and controllers coming through DCA reported at least 50 incidents of aircraft being forced to move out of the way of other planes or helicopters in the past 10 years. Las Vegas, where nearly 60 million travelers pass through the airport every year, counted more than 40 reports of evasive actions in the ASRS database over the last decade. Yeah, there's my other issue. When I lived in Milwaukee, most places, when Midwest Express went out of business or was sold and started flying as Frontier, we had to go through Denver, which was the worst. So I either had to go through O'Hare, Atlanta, or Denver for anything in the last 15 years of my life, and it sucked. Yeah, I haven't heard that one, but I don't buy that. I think they screwed up. I think they royally screwed up. But that's just my personal opinion, but we will read the report when it comes out, if it comes out. In Miami, which sees double DCA's passengers per year, but only filled 60% of its target control tower staffing with fully certified controllers in September of 2023, pilots and controllers reported about 36 incidents in which they said aircrafts needed to take action to avoid collisions in the past 10 years. Reagan National stood out as well in the number of reports describing near collisions between aircraft and helicopters. Pilots flying through DCA reported at least 23 such incidents since the data was collected in 1998. Most of the busiest airports in the U.S. had less than 5 reports detailing near misses between planes and helicopters in that time frame. And when I did live in Wisconsin, I lived near the airport my entire life. I have never seen 2 aircraft basically the planes had to fly over my house on approach. I've never seen anything like this. Unhung Hero, off of College Avenue, they have that tunnel. I used to go there and watch aircraft all the time. I've been obsessed with aviation since I was that size. So this is interesting to me on so many levels. But then I found the lawsuit. In 2023, after a series of close calls at airports around the country, the FAA commissioned a safety review of National Airspace System. An independent team produced a report that found inadequate air traffic control staffing, combined with outdated equipment and technology, was rendering the current level of safety unsustainable. The report added that overtime among air traffic controllers had reached a historically high levels, contributed to absences and fatigue. With fewer eyes on the airspace, the opportunity for mistakes in instruction is multiplied, the report stated, noting there were about 1,000 fewer fully certified air traffic controllers in August of 2023 than August of 2012. Despite more complexity in the national airspace, the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, a union, has also been warning about staffing shortages for more than a decade. The union's president, Nick Daniels, stated in a letter Thursday that it's premature to speculate on the root cause of the DC collision in response to a question about how one air traffic controller was working 2 different tower positions at the same time. Daniels said it's not uncommon for air traffic controllers to combine or decombine sectors to ensure that we can maximize safety and efficiency and safety. I'm dyslexic this morning. Hey, JKD Buck, how are you feeling this morning? The shortages come in part because of attrition during the COOF and the stringent training that is required for new hires, experts say. An Inspector General report from 2023 stated that the pandemic led to training pauses over a period of about 2 years, which increased the certification times for new controllers as older controllers continued to retire. Though the report also noted that the FAA had made limited efforts to ensure adequate staffing. It takes a long time to train an air traffic controller. Mary Shivo, a former Department of Transportation Inspector General, told CNN. It's very expensive, and about a third of them wash out because it's very rigorous. Roy, we're getting to that. We're getting to that. We're gonna get to that. Stop getting ahead of me. The FAA has recently touted more success in hiring controllers in the government's recent fiscal year, which covered October 2023 through September 2024. The agency exceeded its hiring goal by bringing in more than 1,800 controllers, the agency said in a statement, calling it important progress to reverse the decades-long air traffic controller staffing level decline. Separately, in a statement shared with CNN, the FAA noted that the aircraft in the U.S. are kept safely separated by standard routes in and out of airports, on-board collision avoidance systems on airliners, as well as runway safety technology at the busiest airports. The DC disaster has also raised alarms about the Trump administration's offer of employment buyouts to air traffic controllers. Fact check. That was not part of it. This was not air traffic control, and the FAA was not involved in that. The head of the FAA voluntarily resigned before Trump even got into office. So before anybody decides to make it Trump's fault, F that. F that. As part of a larger program letting federal employees accept a deferred retirement. If a substantial number of controllers accept the deferred retirement, that could undo progress of the federal officials made in filing vacant positions. And this is the problem that I also have with this article. And you know me, I'm nitpicky about CNN. So they are also changing the way they are hiring. We will see in that lawsuit how things were done before to get more people in. I don't care. I'm all for having diversity in everything, but maybe it's just some people don't want to do things. It's not that they can't. And I've had this conversation with Flash Fan, and he's not here to confirm. He's in Aruba, having the time of his life. However, it's not that a person of Hispanic descent or Asian descent or black, it's not that they can't do things. Maybe sometimes they just don't want to. Maybe that's just not something they're interested in, and we're trying to force people into things that they don't want to do it for the sake of diversity. And we're not hiring people who want to do the job, who might be as pale as me, ghostly, shall we say. It's the forcing of things. Give everybody the opportunity to do anything they want, and then let people do what they want or don't want to do. Don't force people into things. It's like forcing men into nursing or women into construction. It's not that they can't do the job. Maybe they just don't want to. Maybe they just don't want to. Air traffic control is not a very nurturing job. It's a very rigid, strict, by the book. You say certain things at certain times. You have a script. It's not very nurturing. And women tend to be more motherly and nurturing and emotional. And that's not an emotional job. So stop trying to force people into a job that they might not have the personality to do. It's not that they don't have the skills. If you don't like your job, you're going to suck at your job no matter what it is. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, you don't put everything you have into it, which is not good for the job. So I'm just not for forcing people into something. Give everybody the opportunity and then let nature handle the rest. Yes, government is the problem. They need to stop trying to control everything. I am all for giving someone say someone from the inner city who doesn't have the means to become an air traffic controller. I'm all for giving people grants and saying, here, if you want to, you can. But as far as forcing people into things, that's what I can't stand. And I think that's part of the problem. That would have a huge impact on what we already have a shortage. Representative Jennifer McClellan, a Virginia Democrat, said of the buyout proposal, you already have workers that are stressed and trying to meet needs to keep American people safe. So here's this. air traffic controller qualifications. Hey, poor Marine, how are you? Same with the wage gap. Some women naturally go to certain jobs and men to others. Men tend to do harder jobs. I also have I have a thing with that. I've been talking to Mr. Squid because when he gets offered a new position, sometimes he takes it and sometimes he doesn't because his company, he can do internal transfers and all of that. I have never negotiated my salary. It's not a female thing to negotiate money. Like, we get an offer and 9 times out of 10, a woman will just take it. Men are like, you offered me $20 per hour. No, I want 28. And you work on negotiations. And I also think that's part of where the wage gap comes from, because they might offer men and women, say $25 an hour. Women will be like, fine, that works for me. I'll take it. I just want a job. And men are like, no, I want 30. So, and then men might end up getting 28, where women get 25. There's a $3 gap, but it's not from skill or them offering men more. It's men negotiating. Because Mr. Squid is like, no, I always negotiate. And I'm like, I've never negotiated a job. I've never negotiated an hourly wage. So there's that too. Here's part of, and Ong Hung Hero, thank you for the $10 super chat. I worked for a transport company on Howell, just south of the tunnel under the runway. I would go sit in observation to watch a lot of flights come and go on my lunch breaks. There was that, I would go sit in that observation lot all the time. Also, on College, where they now have the tunnel, are you okay? That tunnel never used to be there, and it never used to be there, and the fence used to be kind of pushed over. So my dad and I would climb over that fence and go sit on the end of the runway for years, and never got caught. Because I was like 10, so that was 30 years ago. All right. Here are the qualifications for an air traffic controller. Some of them I agree with. Some of them I'm like, meh. What does it take to become an air traffic controller? Individuals must meet the following minimum qualifications in order to be eligible for air traffic controller positions. U.S. citizen, completely agree with. Here's the one I don't agree with. Under the age of 31. Under the age of 31. Why, if you're 32, do you not, or why, if you're 31? Because it says under the age of 31. Not 30. Not 31 and over. Like, under the age of 31. So you have to be 30. So why, if you're 32 or 33, do you no longer qualify? So you're just missing a whole bunch of people who are no longer age eligible. Pass the medical exam, security investigation, pass the FAA air traffic pre-employment test, including ATC specialist skills assessment battery, speak English clearly enough to be understood over communications equipment. Obviously, that needs to have 3 years of progressively responsible work experience or a bachelor's degree or a combination of post-secondary education and work experience that totals 3 years. What is their definition of progressively responsible work experience? Yeah, and they also, I've heard from someone who was ATC in the military, they didn't get hired because when they went to negotiate a salary, they weren't willing to pay them. So there's that too. One of my coworkers who worked longer than me was griping about what he made. I made tons more than he did, but he's a minimalist and makes lots of messes. There's that too. Like, 3 things never to discuss at work: politics, religion, and what you make. Oh, sure, the commies on Reddit want you to talk about what you make, but that's Reddit commie talk. Yeah. So it's there's this one I'm also not, that's very subjective to me. The FAA air traffic pre-employment test. Anytime you work for an airline or anything in aviation, you have to take. I was a ramp agent. I loaded and unloaded bags, and I still had to pass physical tests and like written tests on what training was, what requirements were, how to safely drive on an airport. Because I've had to drive on an active runway before, and even driving on an active runway, crossing an active runway to just refill equipment with fuel was freaky. So I can't imagine flying through an active landing pattern. It just doesn't make sense to me. No, in the military, no, but ramp agent, I didn't do pushbacks. I didn't drive a pushback, but I drove the equipment that would load and unload baggage. I would climb in. That's where I actually like filleted my hand. Was on a pallet strap. That's a story for another time. But I did weight and balance paperwork. Dealt with the crappy gate agents all the time. Killdozer. I love it. That's the best name, Killdozer. Love it. My niece was Army trained as HCC, and when Reagan fired them, she was recalled to serve for a year or so back then. Interesting. Yeah, government has pushed college for so long, it created shortages in skilled trades. Not everyone wants to go to college or is equipped for it. And you know what? We've demonized certain professions like a plumber or an electrician. Like those are non-college educated trades, but they are damn important. Like my garbage men might not have a college degree, but damn if their job isn't one of the most important in the country. Like, I'm sorry, I can do basic tasks around the house, but like if I need a plumber, like I don't care if my plumber has a college degree or not. All I know is that he's doing a job that a lot of other people don't want to do. And like my HVAC guy, not a college educated, but a skilled trade. And we've demonized those positions because they're dirty work. But without those people, our society does not run. Like in the military, we made fun of cooks. We just did. It was just, oh, you're just a cook. But without those people, we made fun of the people who went T80 to laundry. But without laundry, nothing got done. So like we need to stop demonizing and making fun of other people because they didn't go to college or college wasn't for them. Like it's everybody's job is important. It's just yeah. And for my profession, I had to go to college because anything in medicine requires a college degree for a good reason. But like, yeah, unless you're going into one of a handful of careers, skip college. You don't need that degree in lesbian dance theory. Yeah, I had a former skating friend who went to school. She majored in German. She minored in dance. She got out of school and couldn't find a job. I mean, maybe if you're going to like work for the State Department, but if you're going to work for a government job, why don't you go for something like, I don't know, business or economics with a minor in German? But why she went for a minor in dance? You know what a minor in dance gets you? Hella nowhere. Yeah. There's a reason that we're not friends anymore, and that is one of them. So yeah, in the county I lived in Ohio, they had a VOTEC high school. So it was a county-wide thing. So if you went to like this high school or this high school, if you wanted to go to VOTEC, you went to just one school and you were now there. But they had juniors and seniors in high school learning trades. So Less than 10% of all applicants meet these requirements and are accepted into the training program. Medical requirements for air traffic control specialist applicants and employees. So they go into each different thing. So it's very and here's the thing. Psychiatric, no established medical history or clinical diagnosis of any of the following. A psychosis. Well, what does the DSM-5 actually deem as a psychosis? So it's a neurosis or any personality or mental disorder that clearly demonstrates a potential hazard to safety in the air traffic control system. Determinations will be based on medical case history, including past social and occupational adjustment, supported by clinical psychologists and board-certified psychiatrists, including such psychological tests that may be required as medical evaluation. It's very subjective. Which in certain psychiatric cases, like you could have two people that have depression. One is fine and able to live stream 5 days a week, and the other one doesn't want to get out of bed. So it's, yeah. But it goes into, and this was last updated February 4th of 2025. So there is that. So becoming an air traffic controller is already stringent. But then you get the added bonus of the FAA and the government saying we need to hire so many people that are not male or not very poor in melanin. So we are going to... Oh, that's weird. I updated my computer and now I can mirror my iPhone on my computer. That's just bizarre. That is just weird. All right. So we are going to... Before I do this, I want to show you the let's see, share screen. (2020-10-27). There we go. This is the complaint that was originally filed back in 2015. This is the fourth amended complaint. Let's get that straight. This is the fourth time this has been amended. There has been people removed, people added, people removed, people added. And we're just going to get through as much as we can of this in the next hour. I don't necessarily want to do this all in one because I know, guys, reading documents and listening to documents can be very, very boring, especially a 44-page document. So we're just going to go through this very slowly and methodically, but I'm going to limit these streams to like an hour and a half, so that, because y'all, the 4, 5, 6 hour live streams, I don't know how people do it. As part of replay crew, I cannot maintain my cognitive, my attention span does not last that long. So I like to keep these more methodical and detailed and non-entertaining streams kind of shorter. So, yes. And with this one, if I was running the government or a corporation, I would want all positions filled by the most qualified people, regardless of skin color, gender, sexual preference. And that's, like, I use Flux as an example because she's my token lesbian friend. I just say it's part of who she is. It's not her only identity. And what's one of the reasons that I love her is it's just a part of her personality. And at the end of the day, no one really cares. And when I say I don't care, it's not to be mean. It's like, it's just one aspect of your personality. It's not, I don't go, hi, my name is Squid and I'm a lesbian. Like, that's not how this goes. That's not how this goes. Like, it's just an aspect of personality. So when I say I don't care, some people get offended by that, but it's like, no, it just doesn't matter to who you are as a person. But here's my thing with this is I am a very like, I'm not going to not hire someone because of that. It's just, can you do the job? I don't care what you look like. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care who you love. I don't care if you have 0 kids or 30 kids. Like, that's not important to whether you can do the job or not. It would be awesome if you did. But like I use this as an example. When I was in college and I started my OTA program, I got through all my prereqs and actually got admitted because you had to like file a separate, almost like you were going to grad school, and you had to do a whole package, an admittance package. I had to do that for OTA school, even though it's only it's only an associate's. You still had to like file paperwork. You had to get a background check. You had to do so many hours of volunteer work, and then you had to write an essay. So it was like I got admitted to college. I do college entrance work all over again. And I was sitting next to this girl. I still talk to her to this day. And I was having a small like get together birthday party at a bar, and I said, y'all come out, have a good time, hang out. And she said, can I bring my significant other? And I said, yeah. She goes, it's a girl. And I was like, I don't, like, okay, is that supposed to matter? Like, and at first she was like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't care. You do you. Like, and we've been friends to this day because I'm like, it doesn't, like, okay, like, is that supposed to be a big deal? I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, and that's my disagreements. Like, I have an acquaintance. I wouldn't consider them a friend because we don't talk a lot, but like, I've known them. We've gone to like baseball games and stuff. They're trans, but they're also in their 40s. So like, they're not a child. And it's like, okay, like, that, whatever, you do you, boo-boo. It doesn't affect me much. Like, yeah, right there. I have no issues with what people want to do in their private lives until they force their beliefs on me. Yes. Like, I will call you like a squirrel if that's what you want to be called if you're a grown-ass man. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. But like, it doesn't affect me much as long as you do your job and you're a nice person and you're civil with people and you don't have an attitude. I'm like, you do you, boo-boo. And that's one of the reasons that like there's people in this chat who I don't agree with on everything, but I'm like, y'all's lives don't affect me much. Like, what you do when you're not in this chat doesn't affect me, so you do you. Like, so I'm like, some people are like, that's pretty laid back way of looking at it. And it's like, no, that's just a common sense way of looking at it. If it doesn't affect your life or your children's lives, Puddle down. I agree with Squid always. That's because I've brainwashed you. All right. Fourth amended and supplemental class action complaint. Plaintiffs Andrew Brigida and Matthew Douglas Cook, footnote 1, on behalf of themselves and the class they seek to represent, by and through their attorneys, hereby file this fourth amended and supplemental class action complaint against the above named defendant. So Elaine Chow was the Secretary of Department of Transportation back in 2015, I believe. In 2014, the FAA, with illegal race-based motives, stripped graduates of the Air Traffic College Training Initiative of their merit-based pre-qualified employment status. These students had legitimate expectations for their hiring after they invested thousands of dollars and years of time to graduate from FAA partnered academic programs. Reading is hard. Yeah. I tried to identify as Elon Musk and Bill Gates, but the banks didn't accept my identity. Yeah, me neither. I identify as a millionaire. Unfortunately, that just Mitch McConnell's wife is who they sued. That one I didn't know. But I also didn't. I took the time to do a lot of work on that, the aircraft collision. And I took time to research what FAA requirements were and look into a lot of things like that. Googling Elaine Chao was not my I didn't spend much time on that. I'll admit. Hey, Chrissy, how are you? And the little one is back here, going up, down, up, down, up, down. So, girl, you are all messy. She's got an ice pack that she's carrying around the house, so she's getting all wet. Elaine Chao is McConnell's wife. Oh, that explains a lot. That explains a lot. Just saying. We're just going to leave it at that. And so these students had legitimate expectations for their hiring after they invested thousands of dollars and years of time to graduate from FAA-partnered academic programs and pass FAA-designed, peer-validated, and proctored aptitude tests in order to be pre-qualified for hiring as FAA air traffic control specialists. Should class certification be denied, a number of other putative class members may seek to be added as individual plaintiffs. And this was filed in 2020. So special interest groups and activists, however, felt the preference provided to those who successfully completed the AT-CTI program had a disparate impact on African Americans. After over a decade of lobbying in 2012 and 2013, these activists convinced the FAA to engage non-agency consultants who would support their arguments. As a result, the FAA traded public safety and operational efficiency for political expediency, abruptly abandoned its well-validated merit-based employment screening systems in early 2014, and arbitrarily purged its inventory of pre-qualified ATCS applicants. So 2014 is about the time that the CNN article said that things started getting worse. Correlation? I think not. I have to go turn off her iPad because she's not playing with it, so I want to save the battery. There you go. There you go. Here. Well, apparently she didn't like that very much. All I did was hit pause so that I could save battery. The interesting thing is you get college credit for military experience. I am 3/4 of the way through an aeronautical engineering degree from Embry-Riddle. I have never stepped foot in a classroom for aeronautical engineering. But once again, I don't want to do aeronautical engineering. It's not that I can't. I just have no interest in it anymore. What, baby? What? What's up, Angel? All I did was hit pause on your iPad and you flipped out. Why are we so mad? Why are we so mad? Why do you keep hitting me? Come here, baby. Okay, bye. Bye. Mwah. She's sassy. Sassy. And arbitrarily purged its inventory of pre-qualified ATCS applicants. The FAA then doubled down on its race-motivating hiring scheme, using an unvalidated race-engineered biographical test to screen and hire new ATCS candidates. This race-biased hiring violated Title VII and eliminated over 1,000 qualified students from the 2014 ATCS hiring process. Well, girl, you're standing on an ice pack. There's a reason your feet are cold. What's the matter, baby? What's the matter, honey bug? Honey bug. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. There, yeah, pretty much. She wasn't even playing with it. She was on the other side of the room. So it's... She wants to do it in Lockheed Martin both recruiting her before she's even finished college. That's nice. I would pretty much go with Lockheed Martin over Boeing. I have friends that work for Boeing, and I wouldn't. But that's just me. This case seeks remedies for the class of students harmed by the FAA's illegal actions. After the FAA implemented discriminatory hiring, the putative class members found themselves largely jobless or underemployed, burdened with significant debt and disvalued college degree, even divorced or homeless in some cases. These aspiring air traffic controllers are entitled to relief under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Whew. Morning, Captain Kern. How are you? Jurisdiction and venue. This court has jurisdiction pursuant to 28 U.S. Code 1331 because the matter of controversy arises under the Constitution and laws of the United States, including but not limited to Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, 42 U.S. Code 2000E. Venue rests properly in this court pursuant to 28 U.S. Code 1391E because a substantial part of the events giving rise to the claim occurred within this judicial district. Additionally, this matter was transferred to this venue pursuant to defendant's motion. The parties. Plaintiff Andrew Brigida is a current resident of Cave Creek, Arizona. He brings this action on behalf of himself individually and on behalf of a class of persons similarly situated. The instatement class as described below. Plaintiff Matthew Douglas is a current resident of Vancouver, Washington. He brings this action on behalf of himself individually and on behalf of a class of persons similarly situated. In the instatement class as described below. Defendant Elaine Chao is the Secretary of the United States Department of Transportation, a cabinet-level department within the executive branch of the federal government. In that capacity, Secretary Chao is responsible for overseeing the actions of all employees and officers within the agencies of the department, including the FAA. Secretary Chao is sued in her official capacity. Baby Squid is going on live stream to discuss the benefits of naps and how to use your cuteness to get what you want. She's hitting me with a fly swatter right now. Angel, what happened, baby? What's the matter, Angels? We were doing so well all morning. Does your foot hurt? Are your feet cold? Well, when you step on an ice pack. Baby Squid teaches iPad will be next live stream. To be perfectly honest with you, I've learned things about my iPad from her. Come here. Oh, come here, baby. Come here, honey bug. Oh my goodness. You want to say hi? It's okay. You want to read? Shall we read? Legal background. Title VII prohibits employment discrimination on the basis of race. 42 U.S. Code Statute 2000E, Ricci versus DiStefano, 2009. Title VII prohibits discrimination against employees of and applicants for employment in the federal government. 42 U.S. Code 2000E 16. Additionally, the D.C. Circuit has held that Title VII is the sole method by which federal employees can enforce the equal protection component of the Due Process Clause against the federal government for employment discrimination. See Keyes v. Webster, D.C. Circuit, 1983, citing Brown versus GSA, 1976. Title VII provides that unlawful employment discrimination to fail or refuse to hire or discharge any individual, or otherwise to discriminate against any individual with respect to his compensation, terms, conditions, or privileges of employment because of such individual's race. Absent a valid defense, Title VII prevents a government agency from refusing to accept the outcome of race-neutral hiring process, depriving applicants of their legitimate expectations solely because of the racial makeup of successful applicants. See Ricci 557 U.S. at 579. Angel, bye-bye. Okay, hold on, I gotta unlock her pad before she yells at me. was so mad. Okay. I have to tell my son the iPad doctor has an emergency appointment just to rest it after multiple buttons pushing. She taught me that my iPad, you can open up the Notes app from the home screen if you double tap the right side of the screen with the Apple Pencil. I did not know that. Why are we still crying? What happened? Hold on. Mama duties await.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals, they take us higher. The night's young and it's just begun as she puts her hand in mine. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, as we shout from the top. We're gonna be two hearts running wild. The morning is the afternoon. We lay awake in bed. The glass so loud as the hours pass. We're gonna do it all again. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, as we shout from the top. We're gonna be, we're gonna be two hearts running wild.
Thanks, everyone. The little one scratched her toe, so we needed a little Neosporin and a cookie to make everything better. So, I miss my kids being young. Now they're teens. I barely see them. Too busy with their wee pals. Yeah, we had a scratch on our foot, so a little mama kiss, some ice, and some Neosporin to take the hurt away. And a cookie, because sugar makes everything better. Poor girl. Oh. All right. Okay, hold on. Here's your water. Well, here, you can have Mama's. Here you go. Okay. Yep, it's a boo-boo emergency, and now we're out of water. So, sorry, guys. I appreciate your patience with me. I will be back in a second. We are just having a moment I refilled her water and she didn't want it, and then I set it down and she wanted it. So it's just, we're in a no-win. We're in a no-win kind of moment right now. So hey, Rogue Mama. I work with public workers who work on sewers, storm drains, roads. Many have college degrees off the top of my head, one teaching degree and one on PT and more. Interesting. Interesting. All right. Absent a valid defense, Title VII prevents a government agency from refusing to accept the outcome of a race-neutral hiring process, depriving applicants of their legitimate expectations solely because of the racial makeup of the successful applicants. However, it is not simply the consequences of a racially motivated employment decision that violate the statute. The sheer fact that an ultimate aim of the employment decision was because of race is contrary to the statute, which always gets me, because it's like, I understand what Title VII was originally intended to do, in the sense of in the 60s, and we're not going to get into Jim Crow and all that, but if you know, you know. But now it seems to be working backwards. It seems to be, you're not hiring people because they are white, instead of the original intended purpose, which is sad. I just, yeah, it's kind of sad the way that things have turned around. The FAA violated Title VII and harmed the class by refusing to accept the outcome of race-neutral hiring processes that made class members eligible for application to CTI-only ATCS vacancy announcements, and relatedly by purging the list of CTI qualified applicants. Angel, come here, baby. Okay. Yeah, so you don't need a college degree to be successful. But the FAA's illegal action, class members were pre-qualified and preferenced for hiring and would likely have been hired or at least offered ATCS positions. The FAA violated Title VII and harmed the class by taking adverse employment actions, including purging class members' qualifications and failing to fully consider for employment or to hire class members, with an ultimate aim was, because of race, to decrease the number of proportion of non-African Americans fully considered for ATCS positions and increase the number of proportion of African American applicants in the final hiring pool. And this is where I have the problem with it, if this is accurate, because there's a, because you can put anything in a filing doesn't necessarily make it true or in the context of the whole story. But I like the way this is written. It's breaking it down. This is how they violated it. New paragraph. This is another way they violated it. New paragraph. This is another way they violated it. Bruce, take note when you write filings. This right here is this right here is how you write a persuasive, educational, but easy to read document. The FAA violated Title VII by using unvalidated biographical screening mechanism to decrease the number or proportion of non-African Americans fully considered for ATCS positions and increase the number of proportion of applicants in the final hiring pool. Factual background: FAA hiring process and research prior to 2014. The FAA's mission is to provide the safest, most efficient aerospace system in the world. ATCSs make up the single largest and most publicly visible workforce in the FAA, and an ATCS position is considered a desirable job with a six-figure income and federal benefits. As of 2012, the FAA sought to maintain a workforce of approximately 15,000 ATCSs. ATCSs are a key component of the FAA's responsibility to ensure safe, efficient air travel. ATCSs carry out thousands of air traffic control actions daily and require significant training to prepare them for this job. Indeed, in the past, less than 4% of applicants successfully completed the grueling gauntlet of aptitude tests, screenings, classroom training, simulation training, on-the-job training, and over-the-shoulder performance evaluations with live traffic to become fully certified controllers. During the 1980s, the FAA hired air traffic controller candidates from two main sources. First, the FAA hired military-trained controllers, Veterans Recruitment Appointments, or VRAs, who separated or retired from military service. Second, the FAA hired through the general public announcements, commonly referred to as off the streets. OTS hiring was inefficient, often resulting in candidates lacking air traffic control or relevant college experience. In addition, besides being expensive to administer, the FAA deemed the quality of candidates unsatisfactory and noted training failures, washouts, rates in the range of 40% with OTS applicants. In 1989, the FAA, experiencing drastically increased and deregulated air travel and rapid technology changes, determined that it had entered its most demanding period in history and published the Flight Plan for Training. This publication proposed a new system to solve some of the failures of OTS hiring by implementing and supporting air traffic control college training programs. The FAA expected the result to be skilled applicants who come to the FAA prepared to pass the required tests and screens, and only those that can be trained would be hired. With such background educational opportunities available, the FAA recruiting world would target pre-trained applicants who required less training on the job, which makes sense. You finish this stuff prior to, which means you're saving us time and us money of training people who are ultimately not going to make it. Like, it totally makes sense to me. Like, it seems like a logical thing. If you can make it through this college program, we don't have to worry about washing you out. FAA recruiting would target pre-trained applicants who require less training on the job because pre-hire training at the college and university level will provide an economical new source of highly qualified and motivated air traffic control specialists. When recruiting schools for the new collegiate training program, the FAA told schools it is the intention of the FAA to place graduates of such programs who are qualified to enter the ATC occupation directly at FAA ATC facilities, depending on hiring needs. The FAA would seek to hire all qualified graduates, but would not offer guarantees of employment. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, if we have 800 applicants and only 10 jobs available, obviously we can't hire everybody. So that, in theory, makes sense. In January of 1991, the FAA promulgated, I hate that word, FAA Order 3120.26, which established the Air Traffic Collegiate Training Initiative, ATCTI, or CTI program to develop, deliver, and implement air traffic control recruiting, selection, and training. The program was initially launched with a select few accredited post-secondary educational institutions as a 5-year proof of concept test for improving ATCS recruitment and training. Diversity was one aim of the program, and the FAA Office of Civil Rights helped to vet the schools to ensure they had the ability and experience to recruit minorities and females. In order to achieve the objectives of the CTI program, the FAA entered into a partnership agreement with its colleges, universities, and other schools, collectively CTI institutions, to administer CTI programs throughout the country. The FAA provided the CTI institutions with air traffic curriculum that included approximately 200 hours of classroom instruction. The schools could then supplement that curriculum with other related training. And this makes total sense to me. This all makes total sense. So far, this is easy to read. Doesn't require a whole lot of breaking down because it breaks it down for you. This is a very well written complaint, in my opinion, so far, but we're only on page 7. Give it time. The FAA defined ATCTI as a recruitment source, a program established for employment of the entry-level air traffic controllers. FAA literature also stated that the FAA hopes to employ all eligible ATCTI graduates, but could not guarantee employment. The FAA actively encouraged potential applicants to pursue CTI training as the primary means of obtaining employment as an air traffic controller. The FAA's website advertised the CTI program nationwide, informing any interested parties that various CTI college programs or the military were the best ways to be hired. And joining the military, there's no guarantee that you're going to be an air traffic controller. You could go in wanting to be an air traffic controller, and it just doesn't work. I went into the military wanting to be a nuke. That didn't work. My ASVAB wasn't high enough. I needed a 93 or a 94 on the ASVAB, and I got an 89. So they offered me another math test. I looked at the math test and said, no. I'm done. And that's when I became aviation. Since 2005, graduates from the CTI program were required to pass a validated air traffic aptitude test known as the Air Traffic Control Selection and Training Examination, ATSAT, in order to be eligible for employment as a trainee controller. The FAA first used the ATSAT in 2002 to screen GP applicants by assessing whether they could successfully learn ATCS skills as well as to predict achievement of certified professional controller status and air traffic controller job performance. CPC status is achieved after the successful completion of air traffic training. The ATSAT test had spent years in development and was thoroughly validated. The test ultimately included 8 of 17 research test modules. See, they got you hooked with that first free math test, then they got you hooked on math tests. Some places. Oh, that's unfortunate. That's very unfortunate. The ATSAT test lasts approximately 8 hours. Damn. And tests 4 characteristics needed to perform effectively as an air traffic controller. The characteristics, apparently, I need more reading aptitude. The characteristics include numeric ability. Reading is important, I'm assuming, too. Prioritization, planning, tolerance for high-intensity situations, decisiveness, visualization, problem-solving, and movement detection. Bless you. Bless you. Once the ATSAT became part of the hiring consideration for CTI students, a student had to affirm his or her United States citizenship and be within a year of completing the CTI program prior to being allowed to take the test. Applicants who scored 85 and above on the ATSAT were classified as well qualified by the FAA. Applicants who scored between 70 and 84.9 were classified as qualified by the FAA. Applicants who scored below 70 were classified as not qualified by the FAA and were not eligible for hire as ATCS positions. Oh, hey, Sir Frank. Since the FAA first instituted the ATSAT, it has been validated multiple times to ensure the test complied with applicable law and professional guidelines. The ATSAT was validated most recently in March of 2013. By 2008, after the introduction of the CTI program and the ATSAT test, the FAA created and used the CTI-only job postings in addition to GP and VRA postings. Only graduates from CTI programs who were U.S. citizens, passed the validated SAT assessment, and had not aged out of eligibility, herein referred to as qualified applicants, were eligible to apply for CTI-only jobs postings. As described more fully below, prior to 2014, CTI qualified applicants, including the class members, received hiring preference or were more likely to be hired for ATCS positions. And that made sense. You went through all this work, all this school, you took that 8-hour test, and you got a hiring preference. That totally makes sense to me because you put in the work. Hey, Gabby. Oh, Sir Frank, I hope you feel better. Ugh. Ugh. Whether hired from a CTI or GP posting, a new hire would be assigned to training at the FAA Academy in Oklahoma. CTI students, however, were excused from the Academy's first 5 weeks of basic air traffic training. If they successfully complete the Academy, ATCS trainees are assigned positions in the field for further training. An ATCS must complete months or even years of rigorous training before becoming a CPC. A report initially issued in 2012 and then finalized in 2013 stated that the FAA planned to hire 12,500 ATCSs in the next decade and projected that 11,000 air traffic controllers would leave the FAA by 2014. The FAA controller hiring plan required the FAA to hire over 1,000 controllers per year in calendar years 2013, 2012, 2013, and 2014. Despite the agency's dire need for ATCSs, the FAA slowed and eventually froze the process for hiring of new ATCS applicants. There's one major problem right there. Despite you needing more, you froze the process of hiring more despite needing more. The logic there doesn't make any sense to me. Upon information and belief, the FAA intentionally slowed its hiring process in 2012 and 2013 in anticipation of abandoning the CTI qualified applicant hiring preference and adopting a new, yet to be determined hiring process that would favor African Americans. It just sounds like racism, but racism against white people or non-African Americans. Like, that's just what it sounds like to me. Based on this, the CTI program increases in volume and influence. Starting in approximately 2007, the momentum and influence of the CTI program increased. The CTI program started with 5 institutions in 1992 and grew to 14 by 1997. Between 2007 and 2009, the program more than doubled, bringing the number of CTI institutions to 36. By 2008, the FAA created and used CTI-only job postings. From 2010 to 2013, the FAA did not use any GP announcements for ATCS openings. Okay, so they abandoned general population, basically off the streets, announcements. And now you had to be in one of these JKD Buck sent me a special high intensity training, shit training. I'll have to read that in a few minutes. But it's shit training. It's pretty much all government training these days. Yeah, right here. Lots of people are sick right now, and y'all can keep that one to yourself. I am getting an IV today for my immune system to prevent myself from getting sick. Because we have a busy week. We're busy 2 weeks. In April of 2011, after Congress and the public took note of 3 controllers being fired for sleeping on the job, the FAA announced numerous steps it would take to improve the safety provided by the ATCS workforce, including the establishment of a panel to evaluate ATCS selection, training, and placement. In September of 2011, the FAA Independent Review Panel on the Selection, Assignment, and Training of Air Traffic Control Specialists published its final report. The panel noted that the FAA had expanded significant resources and time to create an ATCTI program, yet has failed to use that resource appropriately. The independent panel recommended various changes to improve ATCS hiring, including closer evaluation, ranking of CTI institutions that would directly impact ATCS selection. Specifically, the panel recommended a numerical formula to use when hiring ATCS candidates, and the level of the CTI school would have been entitled up to 40 points of consideration, with the next highest category of points being worth less than half of that. This is good to see you don't use the LNR's book to motherhood. Nope. She's content now. We have to do her nails today because this morning she scratched the tip of her nose. So she's got a nice little red line across her nose because she scratched the crap out of herself. Because her nails grow like weeds. I swear we did her nails like 3 days ago. And she already, The panel concluded that the quality and thoroughness of a candidate's undergraduate education, as reflected in the AT-CTI levels, is quite likely the strongest predictor of success in training. In public and congressional reports... What happened, baby? You want to wipe your hands? Oh, you finished? I put a little bit of You want mine? Oh, she finished all that water already. I need to go refill her water before she throws another hissy fit. Be right back. Water refill. Oh. I come back to this. It was hard to say goodbye to my nurse harem. I mean, really, Puddletown? Really? 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 Y'all make me laugh. All right. In public and congressional reports between 2011 and 2014, the FAA repeatedly touted the work of independent review panel and stated that it was working to implement panel recommendations. For example, funding provided to the FAA during this period required the FAA to conduct studies, including on the adequacy of training for ATCSs, and report to Congress. The report concerning ATCS training noted that the FAA had organized the independent review panel and that the panel had conducted research and interviews for over 4 months and provided 49 recommendations, including better use of the AT-CTI program. See, when something is very well written and explains every point very well, I don't need to stop and interrupt things quite as much as I do with, I don't know, say yesterday, where it took me 2.5 hours to get through 13 pages of BS. I'm not even an hour and a half into the stream, and I'm on page 10. That's with stopping multiple times to make sure my daughter was cared for. When something is well written, it just kind of flows. It just kind of flows. And it doesn't take a lot of like, oh my God, like where Like, how is this written? That makes no sense. Yeah, that's what happens when someone has a brain. Yeah, and the garlic isn't going because, I need super chats for that. Yes, and that's the thing. I am mom first, YouTuber second. So some people on the replay crew, I've gotten comments like, "Can you edit out the parts where you went and took care of your daughter? We know you're a good mom and all." It's like, wow, that's kind of a passive aggressive explanation. Like, if you're on replay crew and I'm leaving, just skip that part. Just hit fast forward. Like, just hit fast forward. That's all. But when this is so well written and it just kind of flows off the tongue. Although ATCTI is starting to be kind of hard to say, it makes sense. Like, none of this is difficult to read. Hi. Take note. Take note, some people. This is how you write a well-researched complaint. Like, when something is well thought out, well researched, and well written, it doesn't take a lot of effort to read. I don't have to sit and constantly go, what did they mean by that? What did they mean by that? They're clear and concise. They use short paragraphs. They use double-spaced. They use appropriate punctuation. I mean, I need to have either the expert or DUI guy or somebody come on here and do a legal writing for dummies, so that because sometimes I don't know what I'm reading or why it's written that way, and they're smart. They're the lawyers can tell me how to do it right. In March of 2012, the FAA ATO Safety and Technical Training Office of External Training Initiatives published a report titled CPC Analysis: Success of CTI New Hires Compared to All Other Hiring Sources. The report found that the CTI program resulted in new hires obtaining CPC status at a rate more than 50% greater than GP hires. Okay, so they did a report and they did a study on the CTI program. So basically, proving that the CTI program works for hiring qualified people, and then when they take it away, proving that you took away something that was proven to work. So, ugh. For example, for hires made in financial year 2006, 84.57 of CTI students obtained CPC status compared to just 44.68 of general public hires. Additionally, the CTI students obtained CPC status at an average of 6 months sooner than the general public. So it sounds like it works. All the work that they go through before they even get hired or get to be a candidate from the FAA means they're smart, that they don't take as much time to become ATCs. They don't take as much money from the federal government. This sounds like it's a pretty good plan. I mean, you're saving money, you're saving time, and you're getting qualified candidates. What seems to be wrong with this? In the March 2013 report that again validated the AT-SAT test, confirmed that the AT-SAT is a valid predictor of achievement of the CPC status at first assigned field facility. The report concluded that the AT-SAT is a valid predictor of both on-the-job outcome, achievement of CPC status, and, more importantly, on-the-job performance after certification. In other words, the empirical evidence supports the validity of the AT-SAT as a personal selection procedure for the ATCS occupation. I mean, okay, so CTI, why did they go away from it? Because it seems to be working. Just a thought. This is one of those things of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, this seemed to be working out pretty well. and the government went away from it for some ungodly reason. A later study in 2013 specifically validated the use of AT-SAT in combination with the CTI program. Prior to 2014, CTI qualified applicants received hiring preference for the ATCS positions. For example, one field trainer was quoted as remarking to the 2011 Independent Review Panel, "Please tell them not to send me any more public hires." The panel-related observation was the FAA needs to review its hiring practices and take advantage of the AT-CTI system it has created. Statistically, a 2013 report found that applicants from the CTI source experienced no barriers in the hiring process. I mean, this seems like it makes total sense. Once again, if it's not broke, why did they try to fix it? Like, were referred to selection panels at twice the rate as were the general public applicants, and the general public vacancy announcement had not been issued since fiscal year 2009. Another 2013 report found that only 2.3% of CTI graduates failed the AT-SAT test, as opposed to 6.9% of general public applicants. The most CTI and general public applicants selected for training scored as well qualified, and that 24.2% of CTI applicants were hired, as opposed to only 5.8% of qualified general public applicants. Once again, all the facts say that this is working. I'm not sure why they went away from it. In 2013, this 2013 report, authored by the FAA Civil Aerospace Medical Institute, found that CTI candidates scored an average of 2.49 points higher on the AT-SAT than general public applicants, and CTI trainees were successful more often and failed less often than the general public hires. The report stated that CTI graduates are considered as primary hiring source of ATCSs and recommended the continued use of the AT-SAT in the hiring process of CTI graduates, and the selections went primarily to those ranked as well qualified. Once again, if you want the best people qualified, you want the safest airspace, you hire the people who are well qualified in something that has been proven more than once to be statistically significant in increasing the number of qualified people. Like, mind blown. The federal government was actually doing something that made sense. Oh, what a concept. What a concept. Opposition to the CTI program. Despite, or perhaps because of the CTI program's success, the program had its detractors. In July of 2000, a task force of the FAA National Employees Forum published a business case and strategic plan to address unrepresentation of minorities, women, and people with targeted disabilities. See, and here's my thing, people with targeted disabilities. So you have a specific medical, you saw the FAA requirements to be an air traffic controller. You have medical requirements. So it's not that people with targeted disabilities, you can't hire certain people with disabilities because they're not qualified for the job. Their disability might make them not qualified for the job, which is okay. Which is okay. Like, it's not everybody is cut out for every job. And we have to be okay with the fact that some people are different and some people are not qualified. I am not qualified to be a neurosurgeon because I don't have the proprioceptive input. That doesn't mean I'm stupid or I'm a bad person. That just means I'm not qualified for that specific job and I have to pick something different. It's not rocket science here. Like, it's really not rocket science. That's my thing. Is that fair, though, to favor certain applicants over others who may be just as qualified because they apply in a certain way? It is because of the fact that they went through this program specifically to get this job. They knew that they would get a preference, so they put in the work. They wanted the job, they put in the work. I mean, yeah, I could not sit behind a desk all day, would need to be on the move. And I even have a problem sitting still here. Like, yes, I have a cheap chair. That's the next thing to be upgraded. If I can find the cash, because like this is already falling apart and the seat's just not comfy. So that's the next thing to be upgraded in the system here. The task force observed that of the 680 persons hired out of the CCI program by 2000, 401 of them were white males. Who cares? They wanted to do the job. They put in the work. I'm not seeing the problem here. Like, yeah, they're white males. So the white males wanted to hire. Like, you can't change requirements for things, in my opinion, just because someone doesn't want to do the work. If doesn't matter what color skin they have. If they want to put in the work, they will. It's a simple concept. The task force observed that the FAA had the second lowest rate of employing African Americans of the federal executive agencies. To remedy this situation, the task force recommended, among other things, that the FAA, 1, conduct a workplace cultural audit to identify barriers to diversity. I'm not sure there were any barriers to diversity. I'm pretty sure some people just didn't want to do the job. They knew what they had to do in order to get hired, and they just didn't want to do it. Like, I wouldn't want to do it either. Like, it has nothing to do with or being of a certain color. It's just not wanting to do the job. That's perfectly fine. That's why there's so many other jobs for people. Like I sit in a wheelchair all day, so a desk would be no problem, except that the VA rated me 100%, total and permanent, and Social Security says I'm unemployable. Yeah, I'm stuck at 90%. I couldn't get that last 10%. I could probably qualify for ATC, but that job is way too stressful at times. And see, that's the thing. I might be able to, I could back in the day probably qualify. I just didn't want to do that job because that job seems way more stressful and a level of responsibility that I did not want to have. I already had in the hospital people's lives in my hands. I didn't want multiple people's lives in my hands at one point in time. Like, that's just not a job that I would be. The responsibility is just not for me. Like, that level of responsibility is just not my thing. That level of stress. I don't want to go to work and be stressed out all the time. And I think that's what would happen to me if I did that job. like, yeah, one mistake and you're toast. And like I said, the NTSB are not nice people. I mean, they're not supposed to be, but they're really not nice people. So it's just maybe that certain people in certain genders or certain skin colors just don't want to go to work and be stressed. Like, it has nothing to do with them not being capable. They just don't want to, which is perfectly fine. And that's the problem I have with trying to force diversity, is you're forcing people to do things that they might not want to do. Here you go. Let's see. No? Okay. Like, yeah, I like healthcare. That's what I did, and it pissed me off because they would hire people that have no interest and can't do the job. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you don't have any interest in doing the job, you're not going to be good at it, whether you have the qualifications or not. If you don't have the interest in doing the job, you're not going to be 100%. Like you can tell, like, even in watching a YouTube video, if the person is interested in the topic they're covering, it's going to be a whole lot easier to watch and a whole lot more enjoyable than if someone is covering something that they have absolutely no interest in and they're just like going through the motions. Because people who are uninterested in things don't have a passion for it. And if you don't have a passion for it, you're not going to give it your all in every situation. So you have to have a level of, you have to find the balance between being good at something and being interested in something. What is that phrase? If you do what you'll love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's what you need. That's why they have aptitude tests for things. It's like, how interested are you, but how good are you going to be at it? You might be interested, but you might suck, and you might go, okay, this is not the job for me. Like, we just need to stop forcing things. Like, we just need to stop forcing things. And 2, develop diversity hiring targets for each year, acknowledging that, quote, this type of analysis might imply hiring quotas. And 3, in the most egregious cases, vigorously pursue allowing R&O, race and national origin, and gender-conscious hiring. The task force consisted of 3 members, including one from the Council of African American Employees, Elfrida Brooks, and one from the National Black Coalition of Federal Aviation Employees, Mamie Mallory. Both of these individuals were actively involved in the ATCS hiring process of 2014. Ooh, English. DEI forced white males into homelessness, and now everyone thinks white males are lazy. This is racist no matter how you look at it. Yeah. I'm against judging anyone based on the color of their skin, whether it's white or not white or anything. Like, it's what happened to judging people based on their content of their character. I mean, don't we have a person who we made a national holiday for who said something along those lines? You know, his name might have been Martin Luther King Jr. I don't know. He might have had some famous quotes, such as "Judge not by the color of your skin, but by the content of your character." It's not an exact quote. I apologize, but you know, just it's work ethic. If you put in the effort, you'll never have to worry. I had the job I loved, but that went away. You have to adjust and motivate yourself to do your best every day. If you hate it, go. And that's the thing. It's one of those things of like, there, in my opinion, this is personally my opinion, there is a level where you have to be good at it, have to have the aptitude for it, and you have to enjoy it. Because if you go to work hating your life every day, you're just not going to. See you, Lulu. Good morning, Harry. It's like, there's a fine line. You have to have the aptitude for something, but you also have to enjoy it. Like I said, I have the aptitude to get a degree in aerospace engineering. I'm almost all the way there. I just found out that as much as I'm interested in it, I don't enjoy it. I enjoy reading about it. I enjoy seeing it, but I don't actually enjoy doing it. It's just not for me. But Mr. Squid, if you were to put his aviation ass in a hospital, he might be good at it, but he sure as shit wouldn't enjoy himself. It's a different kind of too stressful for him. Like, his job would be too stressful for me. Whereas my job back in the day would have been too stressful for him in a different way. Like, he would not enjoy it. He would probably be good at it, but he's just not a people person. And in his job, you can kind of have that, like, work first, people second mentality. In occupational therapy, you have to be person centric. So even though I say that I'm not a people person, it's more of I'm not a stupid people person, but I work with people and I like to help people. So there's a fine line. In his job, he's not allowed to help people. He tells them what they did right or what they did wrong, but he could not explain to them why or how to fix it. That is up to them and their supervisors. He is not supposed to teach them what they did wrong. He is just supposed to, and that's perfect for him because he doesn't have to teach anybody. He doesn't have to explain why they did it wrong. He just says, check your work, check your book, try again. It's perfect for him. I would have a hard time not teaching people because my thing is I like to explain. There's the difference between us. He says yes or no. I say yes because there's our difference. The task force was advised by Dr. Herbert Wong of Herbert Z. Wong and Associates. Dr. Wong later served as an advisor for the NBC FAA. That's a really bad acronym, and there should be a way to share that or shorten that. Helping them in 2009 and 2010 to analyze FAA diversity data and to later use that analysis to advocate for changes in the hiring process, eventually leading to the changes made in 2014. As the CTI program grew in scope and influence, its detractors became more vocal. In 2008, while the program was more than doubling in size, the NBC FAE requested 5 years of EEOC data from the FAA Office of Civil Rights. During the summer of 2009, Dr. Herbert Wong, retained by the NBC FAE, completed an analysis of the FAA EEOC, welcome to the government and their acronyms, reports, and concluded that the FAA was the least diverse agency within the executive branch of federal government and would have to increase employment of African Americans by 8.13% to mirror the federal civilian workforce. And here's my thing of why? Why did they need to do that? Like, the qualifications were the same for everybody. If the FAA was saying you have to be white to apply, I could totally see that being a problem that needs to be fixed. But it's not the FAA's fault that certain groups of people don't want to apply. That's just certain groups of people may not want to be air traffic controllers, and that's completely fine. Like, I would rather have I would rather not look at someone and go, why did you get hired? Did you get hired because you were the best candidate, or did you get hired because of your gender or your race? And that is what I don't like, looking at someone and automatically going, did you get hired because you're a woman? I don't like doing that, but I now find myself doing that, which is totally something I never thought would happen in my life. Like, ugh. And I have really never heard anybody actually talk about this lawsuit. I've heard pundits mention it on both sides when talking about this air disaster and the current initiatives in the government to go back to qualification-based and merit-based hiring. But I've never seen anybody in LawTube actually read through it. So, exactly. And I've been called a bunch of words that end in the letters IST because I don't care who gets hired as long as they're qualified. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if it's all white men or it's all white women or it's all black women or it's all black men. I really don't give a shit. Like, I really don't care. I care about the person having the qualifications and being able to do the job. And me, when I step into an aircraft or I go into a hospital, feeling safe with the people who are in charge of my care. Like, there's a reason that a lot of doctors are of Indian descent. Their parents pushed them into those professions, and they have the aptitude. Like, it's not that white women can't be doctors because they're not good at it. They just don't want to. And if you've ever been in a hospital, you spend more time with your nursing staff than you do your doctors. So it's more important. It's that mothering, it's that nurturing character that women have is part of the reason that they are drawn to nursing, because you get to care for people and you still get to have that nurturing, caring side. It's like, versus a doctor. My neurosurgeon had the bedside manner of like Frankenstein. Like, he was not a wordy guy. He did not talk. He was not caring in the sense of like, his bedside manner sucked. And the head of neurology at the VA in Milwaukee had even warned me about my surgeon's bedside manner. Excellent surgeon, bedside manner sucks. But at the certain point when I need brain surgery and he specializes in a Chiari malformation, he is the best person for the job. I could care less if his bedside manner was like the best caring, like Mother Teresa, or like my grandfather who had no bedside manner. Sorry, Grandpa. But like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Oh yeah. And this is I still believe that the the FAA with air traffic controllers age discriminates, because to get hired, you can't be more than 30 years old. You have to be less than 31 years old. So it's, yeah, mandatory retirement age is 56. And see, my thing is if they think there's an issue after 56, you have to go for more testing, more eyesight testing, or more hearing tests, or, but still, yeah, me too. I have a nurse practitioner. I don't have a doctor. It's like, I don't care if my surgeon is nurturing. I care that my surgeon can do the job. At the end of the day, his bedside manner didn't mean shit. We get an understanding that I work in a hospital too. Don't treat me like I'm stupid, and I won't be an asshole, and I won't be an asshole patient, because I know what an asshole patient looks like, and I could easily be one if I wanted to. But it didn't want to. You don't treat me like I'm stupid, I won't treat you like an asshole. We have an understanding. Armed with those findings, in July and October of 2009, the NBC FAE sent letters to the FAA administrator and then the secretary for the Department of Transportation, asserting that the FAA was engaged in disparate treatment and demanding meetings. I don't think that they were. And this is where people look at color and think that color is the most important thing in the world. Color is just a portion of your personality and something that was out of your control. You cannot control whether you were born a white female or a black male. That is completely out of your control. Your personality, whether the fact that you're a hard worker or not, or you're an asshole or not, is what you can control. Like, what gender and what race you were born is completely out of your control. So why are we disparaging against people who can't, for something that they can't control? And that is my biggest thing of, like, anybody on race-based hiring practices or gender-based hiring practices, if you're hiring somebody for something based on what they didn't have any control of, not their personalities, not their work ethic, like, not their intelligence level, but something that was out of their control. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad, in my opinion. It's horrible. On the information and belief that after a reasonable opportunity for discovery, since approximately 2010, several members of the FAA Human Resources and Civil Rights offices were members of and/or had been working with the NBC FAE to eliminate the CTI merit-based hiring preference for class members, qualified applicants, and to concomitantly increase hiring of African Americans. The NBC FAE adopted a 2010 to 2014 strategic plan, which included advocating for affirmative employment, obtaining an independent evaluation of hiring and/or screening tools, and pursuing litigation. The NBC FAE in 2010 through 2014 strategic plan echoed the comparisons of the 2000s business case made of the FAA workforce versus other executive agencies, the civilian labor force, and the federal civilian workforce, as well as the demand for a workplace cultural audit. On February 10th of 2010, the NBC FAA published Talking Points document that described its effort to pressure the FAA into addressing diversity since at least 2008. See ECF number 72-3. This document mentioned that NBC FAE had sent a number of letters to the FAA concerning alleged disparate treatment and underrepresentation of African Americans within the agency. NBC FAE also stated that it redirected its budget to fund this effort and was in the process of building a coalition of supporters from entities outside the FAA that possess power to influence the FAA. This Talking Points document also mentioned the formation of a group of senior members of the NBC FAE called Team 7, who had already met with FAA officials in the CR, HR, and legal offices of the FAA. During this time, FAA, CR, and HR employees were also working to oppose or slow walk the implementation of the Independent Review Panel's recommendation to make better use of the AT-CTI program. For example, HR noted that according to the Uniform Guidelines on Employee Selection Process, 29 CFR Statute 1607, the recommendations to use AT-CTI levels, changing how geographic preferences of applicants were considered, and other changes in hiring decisions that could not be implemented until validation studies were conducted. And such validation studies had not been commissioned or funded. They noted that it would take much longer than 6 months to perform such validation, more like 18 months. Footnote 2. FAA HR also disagreed with recommendation to return to original stricter AT-SAT scoring because of the unequal results by race. Oy, oy, oy. I really hate quotas. Just because you're a certain color doesn't mean you automatically deserve a job. Pandering to the groups who talk loud just because you don't want negative reviews is unfair. Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with that. HR provided one of its lengthiest responses to the panel's recommendation that the FAA take advantage of the AT-CTI system it has created. Hello. We are reading through the FAA lawsuit from the air traffic controller candidates that weren't hired because they were white or non-black. The recommendation is vague. AHR needs a clearer understanding of the intent of this recommendation before we can fully comment on it. However, this recommendation seems to imply that the FAA is not hiring enough or should hire more AT-CTI applicants, almost to the exclusion of other controller hiring sources. The FAA's hiring policies must be consistent with merit-based system principles as follows. Recruitment should be from qualified individuals from appropriate sources in an endeavor to achieve a workforce from all segments of society. And selection and advancement should be determined solely on the basis of relative ability, knowledge, and skills after fair and open competition, which assures that all receive equal opportunity. Consistent with merit system principles, the FAA selects its air traffic controller candidates from a variety of sources to meet its hiring needs. The FAA uses a multi-path approach for hiring and training air traffic controllers, and over the years has built a substantial inventory of eligible air traffic controller applicants with varying degrees of experience and education. The FAA's objective has been to maximize the use of existing inventory of candidates and refer applicants from all hiring sources equitably and fairly while complying with veterans' preference requirements. Veterans have a preference. For those of you civilians in the audience, the VA or the military, when you get out of the military and you apply for a government job, you get a hiring, whether it be a 5 for a normal veteran or 10-point preference for a disabled veteran. You get a hiring preference when applying for a government job. So that one you cannot get away from. So sorry, veteran, doesn't matter what color your skin color, gets a 5 or a 10-point hiring preference in the federal workforce. Footnote 2, HR was careful to note erroneously performed validation studies can be misleading and place the government at considerable legal risk. As is the case today, special agreements must be established to ensure that only authorized parties, e.g. CAMI, conduct certain studies and analysis. In this case has a lot of facts. I read that applicants that scored 100% on the ATC tests were turned down because they weren't the right skin color. And based on what I'm seeing so far, that might not be inaccurate. We haven't quite gotten there yet. Right now, we're just in the facts of we're just in the fact finding part of this mission. There's put your soapbox back in the closet. Calm. Yeah, it should be equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. And there's it's also reverse discrimination because you're favoring a possibility of less qualified candidates because they are a different color and the government makes laws to hire a certain amount. See, and that's the thing. It's not reverse discrimination. It's just discrimination. I hate that reverse racism and reverse discrimination. It's not reverse anything. It's just discrimination. It's just discrimination. Now I have to hop off my soapbox. Uh-uh. Thank you. Thank you. We don't put those in our mouth. No, ma'am. Girl, I'm gonna get. She's putting a magnet near her mouth or in her mouth, so I told her to stop putting it in her mouth, so she holds it right here. It's the toddler equivalent of "I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you." Yeah, you're sassy butt, aren't you? Yeah. Mommy's got to clean that off now because you got slobber all over it. Ugh. Those 10 points don't matter if they decide you're not what they want to hire, what they want to hire. Yeah. But remember, Puddle, it can't be racist because they are white. And now I need a bath. That's true. And that's the reverse racism. And it's like, no, it's not reverse. It's just racism. If you look at the definition, it doesn't have skin colors in there when it talks about racism. It's just one against another. All right. And we're at this for over 2 hours. So when we get done with the facts, we are going to when we get to paragraph 85, we're gonna call it a day. Because this is a lot of facts to take in one day. So, yeah. In March and April of 2012, after the report was released indicating that CTI hires obtained CPC status at twice the rate of general public hires, members of the NBC FAA Team 7 met with the Secretary of the DOT, the FAA Administrator, and other senior leaders in the FAA. One of these leaders was the Acting Administrator for Civil Rights. The Acting Administrator for Civil Rights, Ms. Mallory, had been the author of the 2000 Task Force business case, who at the time was associated with the NBC FAE. In fact, just a few years before this 2012 meeting, the NBC FAE had created a nonprofit foundation named after the acting administrator. Following the NBC FAA meetings, the FAA administrator, Michael Horta, tasked the Office of the Assistant Administrator for Civil Rights, led by Ms. Mallory, to conduct a barrier analysis for the ATCS position. I'm too busy talking to yell. The next month, an FAA presentation announced that barrier analysis for the ATCS positions would be starting soon. An initial version of the barrier analysis was completed in October of 2012. One of the recommendations from this barrier analysis was to put non-cognitive measures ahead of consideration of the AT-SAT in order to alter the racial mix of candidates being considered. I have a huge problem with this. When you take a job that requires a lot of stress, a lot of tolerance to stress, and a lot of cognitive load, you cannot put non-cognitive measures ahead of cognitive measures. It just does not work like that. Hey, Tammy, how are you? It's just one of those, like, I can't, like this right here. Paragraph 72 is the problem. October of 2012. Somebody mark that, like, this right here. Like, there we go. Like, oh boy, I just can't. Like, I just can't. Just can't. Why? This right here is like undo at highlight. There we go. Oh my goodness. This right here. This, we gotta highlight that. There we go. Oh. The barrier analysis also repeatedly stated that hiring from CTI only sources served as a barrier to African Americans. That one I can agree with. That one, fine. You don't want to take all your hiring from CTI? That's fine. Totally fine. In December of 2012, the FAA HR contracted with the APT Metrics to conduct a detailed root cause of analysis of the identified barriers and establish the foundation for corrective interventions. Meanwhile, the NBC FAE released a document titled There we go. Team 7 on the move, a visit to the Hill. Are you hiding? Are you hiding? Yeah. She's hiding. Yeah, let's hire less smart candidates because of a quota. Yep. Seems like government to me. And the government F's everything up. The government had a good thing going. This was a really good way of, like, the early 2000s, there was a shift, or the early 2010s, there was a shift from merit to race. And I don't like that. Like, not everything is about race. Not everything is about race. Not everything is about race. Stop making everything about race. I'm sure if Flashman was here and not in Aruba having fun, he would say not everything is about race. Like ugh, I can't even. Meanwhile, the NBC FAA visit to the Hill, which described multiple trips to Washington, D.C. to meet with the FAA concerning a perceived lack of affirmative employment plan, and forecasting an additional such meetings in 2013. The document mentions several meetings with congressional staff. During these meetings, NBC FAA requested support from Congress to slow down or stop hiring of new FAA employees until some changes are made by the FAA. And this is another big problem. Yeah, he's in Aruba. Yeah, poor Flash fan went to Aruba on vacation. Poor thing. Yeah, poor guy. He seems to be having some fun. he's suffering, having to walk on the beach and eat seafood all day. Angel, stop kicking it. No. No. Please stop kicking my girl. I have to stop her from kicking my and we wonder why my filing cabinet is dented. Exhibit A. Like oh yes. I'm not a hissy fit. She just likes to kick the filing cabinet because she gets a kick out of it. No pun intended. She thinks it's fun. I will get it. Hold on. There we go. So basically, they just slow down or stop hiring of new FAA employees. So right here, these people, this NBC FAA, is specifically and personally responsible for the fact that we have air traffic control shortages, and these people should be held accountable. It's in my opinion that these people specifically that contributed to the downfall of this nation. And I'm more than happy to cover this all the way through its conclusion, because if it ever concludes, I mean, this started in 2015, it's 2025, and people are still filing motions. In an unsurprising coincidence, while the FAA had issued a CTI-only ATCS job posting in August of 2012, no hires were made as a result of that posting. ATCSs were still needed, however, so a VRA posting was issued in early 2013. In early 2013, Terry Kraft, a manager and advocate for the FAA AT-CTI program, began communicating with the CTI institutions to obtain diversity data that would be pushed up to the highest levels of the FAA. Kraft stated, "My objective, should it be true, is to demonstrate that CTI pool is as diverse as the other hiring pools in the VRA and general public. And I'm sorry, when they said 400 of their 600 applicants were white males, can anybody do the quick math on the overall population of the United States? That seems about consistent with the overall population of the United States. 2/3, about 66% of the population in the United States identify as white. 400 of 600, it's about 2/3. It's about 66%, so it's about right, demographically speaking, and percentages. It's and here I am to expose it all. I'm just tired of people going, well, it's all Trump's fault, when they have no idea what happened to 10 to 15 years ago, before Trump even was on the scene, when Trump, I believe, was still donating to Democrats. So it's and hey, Mary, how are you this morning? There is a perception that it's not. So far, I do not see this as true. So I need data to back up this as perception before this perception becomes perceived truth. And that's the problem. People's perception of things, they automatically assume is true. And it's not always the case. I like facts to back up opinion, because not all opinions are right. I have opinions. Not all my opinions are correct, turn out to be correct, and that's fine. But yeah, his intentions might have been good, but it will never work out when you hire unqualified people just for the sake of being diverse. Yes. And it's also forcing people to work in a sector of in a job sector that they might not want. You can be as qualified as you want too. It might not be something you're interested in. And we had that conversation a little earlier, so I'm just going to refer people back to about a half an hour ago. The diversity data and report ultimately drafted by Mr. Kraft commended the CTI institutions for their diversity results and efforts, but this report was watered down and weakened by Joseph Teixeira, Vice President of the FAA ATO Safety and Technical Training Office. On April 6, 2013, the FAA released APT metrics extension to the 2012 Barrier Analysis Extension Report. The extension report took a more focused aim at the alleged disparate impact of CTI on hiring African Americans. For example, the extension report concluded that when examining the underlying diversity of the various applicant sources, the most dramatic difference was found between the Collegiate Training Initiative source and all other applicant sources with respect to African American representation. African American applicants comprised only 5% of the CTI pool compared to an average of 34% African American representation across the non-CTI applicant sources. So what if they did like a 75-25, 75% CTI applicants and then 25% of the general public? We forced to hire some for reasons with DEI, and they are almost all no longer employed. Yeah. The deeply flawed and outcome-driven extension report repeatedly blamed the CTI program for racial imbalances in ATCS hiring, stating, for example, advancement in the hiring process is clearly correlated with race. Advancement in the hiring process is clearly correlated with applicant source. CTI applicants pass hurdles at a significantly higher rate than all other applicant sources. But there's a reason for that. They've had the college education and the significant time of learning these processes before they even get considered in the hiring process. They pass that SAT because they're more qualified, because they have a better background in education. If you have that big of a problem with the general public applicants, improve your general public applicant training process. Because apparently whatever they're using for general public applicants is not working. So how about you improve that? What a thought, right? Not everything is racism. Not everything is racism. Like, is it sexism that more women want to be nurses than men? No, it's just more women are interested in nursing than men. It's a simple, not everything is as deep as people want it to be. Not everything is that. It's not a the road is not always paved with negative intentions when it comes to, the road to hell was paved with good intentions. There's that. But not everything in the world is a negative thing. It's not that nursing schools don't approve men's applications. It's just men aren't applying because more women want to be nurses. Like, it's just a thing. Like, geez, it's not that big of a deal. People overthink things too much, and that's when shit like this happens. People overthink and think there's a negative reason for everything that happens in the world, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes negative shit just happens because it happens, or what people perceive as negative. Oy, oy, oy. On information and belief, the barrier analysis and extension report were solicited and conducted in part to bolster the FAA's plan to eliminate the merits consideration of class member qualified applicants in favor of a race-based or race-based hiring process. The extension report recommended consideration and use of preferred qualifications based on background and experience dimensions and other factors to differentiate between the large number of candidates meeting the minimum qualifications and other qualification requirements, example, passing the AT-SAT. Essentially, the role of biographical questionnaire came into play in the 2014 ATCS selection process. I applied to be a nurse and aide at a nursing home, didn't get the job because guess what? Not qualified. Shocker. Like, not qualified for a job, not going to get it. On May 8th of 2013, the extension report was supplemented with a revised version of the barrier analysis. This 2013 barrier analysis reinforced the extension report and opined that the CTI application source exhibited diminished diversity, and there are serious diversity consequences for not fully using the general public application source. The 2013 barrier analysis further speculated that the CTI applicant pools were the result of attempts to manage the application workload rather than legitimate issue of business necessity. In other words, as if they were specifically commissioned for such a purpose, the extension report and the barrier analysis took aim at the CTI program and the use of the AT-SAT scores, playing into arguments by NBC FAE and members of the FAA CR that education and cognitive requirements disadvantaged African Americans. Basically, you just called African Americans stupid, which is a huge problem in my book. And I believe that is a racist statement. Like, calling people stupid just based on their race is discrimination. Like, is racism, in my opinion. Like, not even going to lie about that one. The FAA, these people are basically saying, even though they're black, they're saying that black people are stupid. Like, that's so wrong. That is so wrong. On information and belief, the barrier analysis and extension report were solicited and conducted in part to bolster the FAA's plan to eliminate the merits considerations of class member qualified applicants in favor of a race-based or race-based hiring process. So we made it to page 18 of 44. This is a lot to take in and a lot of facts. We are going to start here next week. We're only going to be doing this once a week because it's a lot. And I have a lot of topics to cover. So we will start next time on page 18. I will, I'm just going to screenshot. So I have because the hardest part about doing these broken up is remembering where I stopped in various lawsuits. But this is a lot to take in one day. We are going to pick this up next Monday. Tomorrow, I don't think I'm going to stream tonight. Tomorrow, Rosalind and I are going to keep going through the Ruby Frankie lawsuit. It's probably going to have to be in the morning, so probably around 10 o'clock again. As soon as I know, I will make the thumbnail and create the stream. And then Wednesday night, we do have night court where we're going to be watching the CNN Zachary Young lawsuit or court case where CNN gets their asses handed to them by a Navy vet. Because, they can't help but be defame people. It's the only thing they're good at. Even in that air traffic controller article that I read, it starts off with good intentions and starts off with facts, and then it goes down into TDS. It divulges down into Trump derangement syndrome. So nothing can ever be fully okay and just facts based with CNN. They always have to opine on something, even in non-opinion piece. But anyway, on that note, we are going to get going, and I will see you guys tomorrow. If I do decide to stream something tonight, I will let you know, either on Twitter or on Discord. I think I'm just going to be searching for documents tonight because we are discussing a new case, which I might go over on Wednesday morning. It is that a new Florida case out of Orange County, Orlando area, where the rules were changed in order to meet diversity quotas. So they relied less on the college training program and less on the SAT test and more on diversity quotas and general population hiring, which don't pass as a proficient of a rate as the general population hirings or general public don't pass as much as the CTI based. So it's not another suitcase. It is a domestic violence where one of the both of the parties worked for the Orange County Sheriff's Department. One retired because of a on-the-job investigation where he had some smexy time with someone who was not his wife on the job, while his wife was an employee for the Orange County Sheriff's Department as well. And it was framed as a suicide, but it was not a suicide. And he is being charged with her tragic unaliving with a pew-pew shot to the head. So it is it's going to be an interesting one. It started back in October. I just got wind of it from Jeff and Flash Fan. So I started looking into it when we were doing Verdict Watch for the Colin Griffith, but it should go to trial in a month or two. So I think I'm going to be doing work on that tonight. And I might do just a chill stream, chill and research with me while I'm looking for documents if I'm bored. Because sometimes it is more fun to look for documents when I have y'all hanging out with me than when I'm by myself. Because otherwise I get distracted with stuff. But on that note, I'm going to see where we can redirect to who is live right now. Who is live? Who is live? Who is live? Customization. And I will be posting this on Mo in the Deep End is doing Tennessee versus Megan Boswell. Kwame Brown Bus Life is doing Trump is the worst racist in the world. We're going to go to Kwame Brown because I love his sassy attitude when he covers things, and he is also a George boy. He's a former NBA player. So, hey. Yeah, well, Florida has sunshine laws. So Florida has to be more transparent and make the documents easily accessible, which means news media gets them easier, which means the general public, like you and I, get them easier. And every state has crazy, every nation has crazy, but Florida says, here's our crazy, it's on full display. That's where the Florida man comes from. So we're just going to go over to Kwame Brown Bus Life because he is talking about you said and how Trump is the worst racist in the world. So we can go over there. Y'all have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.